I see Mayor Kuntz sitting here and getting ready. Actually, he's not sitting, he's pacing. So we're going to get him on and we're going to talk to him about what his plans are after, after November, and then get a chance to talk about the big feather in his cap, which is the Confluence Parkway project, which I know a lot of people have some questions about, including myself. So the questions that we're going to get some answers on are not all my questions. So, right, this is all about community interaction and community outreach. So a lot of the questions and comments that are going to be coming through have not come from me. They've come through, people who have been like, "Oh, I know you're going to be talking to the mayor. This is what I want you to cover." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna talk to him about it." All right, so here we go. Let's get some electrolytes and some antioxidants, and we're gonna get Mayor Kuntz all set up here. And so just so you know, just a little bit of history on this Confluence Parkway project. It is honestly a huge deal, because as we move forward into like the next decade, we're really looking at a huge increase, not a huge increase, but just a steady, okay, I think that's fair, a steady increase in the population, right? Like a 1% increase, even if it's just a 1% increase in population every year, after about a 10-year, we're looking at 100,000 more people in our city. And where are they going to go, and how's that going to affect commuting time, and how's that going to affect traffic, commuting in and out of town. So thinking into the future, right? That's the way that you have to think of how this is not going to affect us now, because obviously it's going to affect us now with the construction. It's going to affect us now with with being disturbed in our everyday commute now. But I think having people who are invested into the future of what this community is going to look like and how it's going to function is really where all of this is coming from. And I want to get this camera set up because you're so tall. But so just give me a second, because he's tall and we need to. There we go. Now I got you. I'm like, I can't have the mayor on with his head chopped off. Fall off the edge. I know. I'm trying not to. So, but
I'm just point at the sky.
Oh, jeez. Nope, I'm not going to do it. There you are. I got you. All right. Like, no, he's going to be perfect before I put him on screen. So there you go. So thank you so much for coming onto the program and talking about this with us today.
Sure. My pleasure, Nikki.
And first off, I know that you are winding down in your seat after 12 years. How do you feel about that, first off?
So I'm totally happy with being done in 12 years. Winding down is only in terms of how many days I have left, because yesterday I got to work at about 7:30 and got home at 9 last night.
Right.
And I think I was asleep on the couch at 9:15. Just a very long, exhaustive day for the mayor, and it was all mayor stuff. It wasn't at my accounting practice. It wasn't anything. It was all mayor the entire day. And so, winding down is only in terms of days, because I'm the mayor till December 31st, and I think I will start slowing down sort of mid-December-ish. There's a time when next year's budget's wrapped up and staff's taking some time off around the holidays, that literally sort of the torch passes. Whoever the new mayor is won't quite be sworn in yet, but they'll be probably in my office doing the work of the mayor. I'll continue to sign whatever needs to be signed, but there's a sort of a natural handover. I know when Dennis handed it over to me, I think that the final tally was towards the end of November, and he just said, "There's the office. It's all yours."
Is there a different?
I think that was the hardest month I ever worked without getting
when
paid.
he was handing it
over.
Yeah.
It's just like that was a ton of work. Yeah.
Well, sure. And there has to, and I'm assuming that there's a different mental mentality right now, because after you're doing it for 12 years and you're like, oh yeah, there's all these things that I want to do and take care of, and I even at the beginning of these past 4-year run, you're like, I've got this much time to do it, and now you know that there is an end date.
Yeah.
Right? You're working towards this goal of finishing up whatever it is that you want to finish up at a certain time. So now it's like, okay, let's get this done, right?
Yep. And I think for me, to be honest with you, it is sort of the background to Confluence Parkway. You were talking about that a little while ago. So, we've got the money. Again, we didn't have the state money until a couple of weeks ago when the governor signed the state transportation budget. We're still trying to get what's called a term sheet with the federal highway department. So once we get the term sheet signed, which hopefully gets signed in the next 3 to 4 weeks, then everything legally is done. And I'm an accountant by trade. So my view of the world is the project's done when it's paid for and all the paperwork's done.
I know, right? I've heard you say that
Then
before.
you hire engineers and all those people to sort of execute the grand plan. And so for me, I will feel like, okay, I've done all that the mayor is supposed to do, hopefully in the next month or two. And then there's some other little things to do, nothing major. I've told most of the organizations I work with, it's like, if you need something from me, I just can't do it tomorrow, right? We need to get it through city council. So if there's something you think it's important that you want done while I'm here, then let's go ahead and start working on that. And
you're like me, you talk with your hands.
I really don't think there's that much left, to be honest with you. But
okay.
The day-to-day stuff is still there every day.
Is it, let's talk about the Confluence Parkway project a little bit, or a lot of it. You say, because you're an accountant, as soon as it's paid for to you, the project is done. Obviously, that's not exactly true, is it?
No, you're absolutely correct, because it's got to be designed fully. There's right of way to acquire. There may or may not be cost overruns. There may or may not be some small changes to the project, because it's what they call a design build, which means it's going to be designed, and then at about a 30% design, we're going to enter a contract that says you can finish designing and you can build it for, and not to exceed whatever the math is. I think it's 150 million, because we got engineering on top of that. And then someone's going to commit to that, and they're going to go, yes, we can. And that's long before it's fully designed. And so it is a little bit different sort of a contract, and that'll take us a while to get to that point. And then there'll be all sorts of construction. But, I've always sort of felt, as staying at 60,000 feet or 30,000 feet, just trying to make sure, okay, this is where we're going. I've got super competent staff that are amazing. We've hired some of the best people who do design builds in our country are working for us now to make this happen. So,
but will the design go out to bid?
So so design will go out to bid. So we have an owner's rep. So we have people representing the city, and then we're getting RFQs right now for a design team. And it's design build team. So we will go through and we will pick which one of those we choose, and they'll go for a while, and then we'll have a stop and say, okay, can you do it for the money we've got? And they always seem to figure out how to do it for the money we've got. So, but again, at $200 million projects, a $200 million project, we haven't done a road project of that scale in our town probably forever. Interesting, when we first got the infra-grant money, 2 years ago, one of my first discussions was our local WashDOT group. Our Washington State Department of Transportation has a big office out in Old Station. They do all the state projects in our district, whatever it is, District 6 maybe, I don't know. And we said, hey, you got some engineers that can help, or any expertise? This is new for us. They said, we've never done a $200 million project before. Why do you think we're going to help you? And so it really was a sort of an aha moment, like, all right, this is going to be us sort of figuring it out on our own. But
and do you think that's how much it's going to cost? Like, it'll cap out about 200 million? Because I've seen different, this is going to be a $117 million project, a $190 million
So a lot of it is just sort of based on not, the way we put our grant packages together, right? In whether we sent to Washington. So there's different components of the project, and they didn't agree to fund all of it. So part of Confluence Parkway was some stuff in East Wenatchee, and there was some stuff other places. So they said, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're doing this. We're doing this. What I can tell you is we got $92 million from the federal government.
Right.
And we got 85 from the state government. So you add those two up, that's 177 million.
177, yeah.
And we know we're 10 million short when we started. So that means 187. So if you say 190, For rounding error, that's
Yeah.
probably close. Do you think we'll have a cost overrun or two? I would guess we probably
Probably
would.
would, yeah.
So if you said $200 million, I think you're probably pretty close to what we think it's going to be.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty conservative.
Yeah.
But it is coming also from grant money. So
Yes. Cities of Wenatchee do not have $200 million.
Right.
Cities of Wenatchee will have a hard time finding $10 million. But
Sure.
as I've told, I have a running argument with Laura, who works for me at City Hall. She keeps saying, well, where's that $10 million going to come from? And I said, it's going to show up. We're going to apply for a grant for this part, apply for another grant for that part. Yeah, we'll be into it some, probably what we've already spent, but it may not be a ton more than that because people want to be involved in good projects. And I just met with the Transportation Improvement Board yesterday. They were in Wenatchee and we toured their executive director. And he said, yeah, we can partner with you on this portion of Confluence Parkway out in Old Station where it sort of grinds into some of the residential and there's some sidewalk improvements that need to be made. They said, yeah, we can help you with that. And so as we go forward, we'll find other partnering agencies to help. Link may be willing to help us a little bit in certain spots.
Now, the TIB, the Transportation Improvement Board, is not, I mean, people might not know what that is, but that's a state agency.
That's a state agency. And basically they get funding every single year. And then they have to go through and allocate projects. They do a request for projects and so much goes to different districts. We're in the same district as Spokane, to be honest with you, when they right. And we say, here are the 4 or 5 things.
Is that a detriment to us?
No, because they might get more money. It's a bigger city, right? But we've done extremely well with TIB. We got 2 more grants just last week awarded to us. So there'll be 2 other projects that are taking place in the next couple of years. So they've been great for us. And, TIB, they're trying to partner with us to figure out how to connect the links. They want to make sure it's pedestrian friendly and there's bike lanes. And we're good about, especially on our east-west corridors, making sure we accomplish that. So they've been great. And then you have to actually do the projects, right?
Right.
They have to have confidence that they're just not going to keep giving money to Wenatchee if we can't deliver a project, right? And so we are really good at delivering projects. And they go, wow, you did that one already? We've got some more money. Do you want to do another one? So I credit our engineering department for being able to get all these projects out. And so this has been a great partnership, right? And they continue to give us funds every single time we ask. We don't get all that we ask, but they're very good partners with us. And we just keep trying to deliver because we know there's more, right? There'll be more next time and more next time. And if you really needed them, they'll be there to help us. And I think that's what partnerships are all about, right?
Well, you do need to find that last 10 mil.
Yes.
So it isn't completely paid for quite yet. And I will kind of put out there, it is, from what I'm hearing, it is seeming like you are going to need whoever is this next mayor to really see this project through.
Yeah, I think so. I think, listen, there's tons of decisions that mayors make, right?
Yeah.
All sorts of decisions that until you're sitting in the seat, you don't know what they are, right?
Yeah.
And made one this morning. It's like, there's just a lot that goes on. And so again, you have great staff and but there's going to be times when they're going to go, Mayor, you need to call this person and you need to ask for this. And then but you don't want to overuse that, right? So I don't want to have to call Senator Murray every other week, right? But when Senator Murray or Senator Cantwell hear from me, they go, it must be important the mayor's calling, right? So you got to be really careful about how you use the mayor card to get things that you want, right? So staff sometimes tease things up and then it's like, so I got to be real careful. When is the time for me to get involved? And so I think you just got to be patient about that. And the next mayor is going to have the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we going to have some cost overruns or we can change the design? What do you guys think? We should do it the right way. We need to go find $10 million. Where do you think we should go find it?
Yeah.
Let's go meet with our legislators, Mike Steele and Keith Gaynor and Brad Hawkins, and see if there's a pot of money there. Go back to you just go to all those different spots and you just keep looking until you find something.
There's several different aspects to the project too, right? There's several different layouts because there's the actual bridge and there's widening of the walking bridge. And so could they maybe do part of a project and not the whole project?
Yeah. So you might find someone who, hey, we got money for paths and trails.
Right.
Good. We're rerouting a path and building another trail. So you want to help partner with that, right? We're doing a pedestrian overpass between the pedestrian bridge in East Wenatchee and the pedestrian bridge in South Wenatchee, right? And so that's a $10 million component. Hey, we've agreed to build it with federal dollars, but can we take those federal dollars and put them into the Confluence Parkway if somebody else agrees to help us cover the right?
Hmm.
So we're always looking for stuff. And this is a time with ARP money and the feds wanting to do a lot of infrastructure. There's a lot of grant availability out there, right?
Yeah,
And quite frankly, your federal delegation now have the ability to almost do where they can just pick projects, right? And do earmarks. And so those are started to come back a little bit. So if we really needed something from, say, Kim Schreier or either of our senators, we could go to them and say, hey, can you get us an earmark for $3 or $4 million? I mean, the project's already federalized, which
yeah,
means it already comes with all of the paperwork that the federal requirement comes with. So if more federal money doesn't ruin the project, right? Sometimes if you do small projects and it's just funded by the state and you go, oh, there's a federal grant. Sometimes you get $1 million of federal grant and it costs you $1.5 million to do it because of all the paperwork that comes with it. So
sure.
sometimes you don't want to have a federal project. This one's already federalized, so more federal money doesn't come with any additional cost to us. So it leaves everything wide open. And again, if you're in political office, it's way higher than mine. You want to be part of projects that are going to get done, are going to improve people's lives. And so, we had Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg in last fall, and he was excited about it. And so, again, we just keep. I've learned in this business, you're going to get told no a bunch of different times, and and you just got to keep plugging away. Something's going to happen that's good. Something's going to happen that's positive. And I've got all the faith in whoever the next mayor is going to
Hmm.
be able to help the team get it to the finish line.
Well, I give you and your team a lot of credit on this project. The Confluence Parkway project is what we're talking about today, right now, with Mayor Kuntz, because there was a lot of hurdles to get to where you are right now on this project. I mean, before we talk a bit more about what those hurdles are, I mean, and I alluded to it a bit more before we got you on, but why for you is this project so imperative for our community to get invested in mentally and emotionally for the future?
So I'd say there's two or three things. Obviously, as you mentioned, our community is continuing to grow, and the
Hmm.
projections are, 1% a year for a while. So that's another, we got 35,000 in the city of Wenatchee. So that means we'll be at 40,000 before you know it. Most of Sunny Slope's in the county. And so by the time you start looking at sort of the lay of the land in this region, and you go, so downtown Wenatchee's in downtown Wenatchee. And if we don't fix North Wenatchee Avenue, if you're up in Sunny Slope and you go, oh, I want to go to Atlas Fair for dinner tonight, but it's going to take me 40 minutes to get there,
Hmm.
that hurts your downtown. So what if it only takes you 10 minutes to get there? Oh, that's a better choice. Let's go downtown. And if Atlas Fair is busy, maybe we'll go across the way and go to Gastropub, or we'll do something else in town. So you want to make sure that downtown's accessible. And what we've known by looking at North Wenatchee Avenue is that thing continues to sort of get more and more congested.
Hmm.
We had fires, the Broadview fires, and people couldn't get out of this town. And so I think it's really important that we come up with another way north to connect to on your way to Leavenworth, or connect on your way to Chelan. And we got to remember, lots of people drive from Chelan to Wenatchee to work, or drive from Leavenworth to work, or vice versa, drive from Wenatchee to
Hmm.
go to work in those two
Yeah.
communities. So that's a very central hub for all of traffic activity. And you know, listen, I think that where we're putting Confluence Parkway, if you were to back up 50 years ago, you would have said, we need to find another corridor. But nobody set that aside 50 years ago, right? So now here we are trying to look 20, 25 years ago, going, we need another one. And this, quite frankly, when you looked at all the alternatives to head north, this was the only one that made any sort of sense. And so it's a little complicated because it's in the Huron Natural area for certain portions of it. It
Right.
does reroute the recreational trail to some degree. Actually doubles the size of the pedestrian bridge that goes over the Wenatchee River. It'll be twice as wide. And, it's where all the link buses are going. It's just that it is this sort of the way. And so it really made sense. We studied a third bridge. Do you put a bridge in downtown Wenatchee that goes to East Wenatchee so that people could go on Sunset Highway to get out? I mean, we studied all of those different options, and everything came back to we need another north-south
Mm.
way out, and then widening North Wenatchee Avenue to 6 lanes or 7, because there's two in the middle, and some spots are so. To make it to 6 lanes, all of a sudden you're taking out every business, right? Because
Yeah.
that time, so it's like that didn't make any sense. So this was really, I think, the best way to look at it. It came to me about just right after I became mayor, the engineering team was like, okay, this is what we're thinking about, working with the Transportation Council. And I think our region is entitled to sort of plan for and think about one major project at a time. So there was a lot of improvements to the George Seller Bridge, 10 or 12 years ago when they added the extra lane and they put the sidewalk on the outside and they redid some of those exits and entrances. And I think the improvements over by Fred Meyer have been very helpful in getting cars. So we've done some improvements, and then it was like, okay, what's next? And Confluence Parkway was clearly next. Being a city project, we took the lead on it, and we said, hey, we will be the ones that, go to Washington, D.C. We'll be the ones, some Douglas County commissioners went with us a couple of times, but, we'll take the lead on it. We'll pay for all the consultants, which we did. And we paid for all the folks to help us get us through that. And we asked for infra grants on 4 separate occasions, and the first 3 we were no. And on the 4th one, we got $92.4 million, which was the largest award by about double in that round. And was listen, cities the size of Wenatchee don't get $92 million infra grants. They just don't. It doesn't happen. And so kudos to our team and our staff for making that happen, and for our elected officials back in Washington, D.C. to have confidence in the city to be able to execute that. But that's only half the money, right? So that was like.
But did you know when you went into the project, when the engineers brought you the idea that you were going to have this issue with the land, the Horan Conservatory down there, like, did you know going into it that you were going to have to deal with that?
Yep, absolutely, we knew. But listen, you can build a brand new 520 bridge, right, from Bellevue into the University of Washington district, right? Take up all that additional land on both sides, right? All the water, everything, and they figured out a way to mitigate that to the satisfaction of the folks that live in Seattle and all the environmental folks, right? They built a new park, they did lots of stuff. So if they can do that, we can clearly build 2 lanes of traffic and a bike lane in a different spot, right? So I always felt like if other organizations can do these huge projects that are environmentally sensitive, that we can do the same thing, and that we can mitigate for those things. Right. Given the scale that we have. And I had full confidence that we'd be able to do that. It took us a long time, and we're still working on some of the mitigation measures. But
I like that you use the term environmentally sensitive.
Yes.
Because it is an environmentally
absolutely.
sensitive area. And I know a lot of people are concerned about it still, even though there has been an agreement between the land swap, the 5-acre land swap with the PUD. But I mean, the PUD, I mean, it was $80 million on the line, like with the PUD.
Yep.
But going forward, I know people want to make sure that we're still doing right by the environment and seeing that through, even with the land swap.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we've got to make sure we're working. The PUD has the ability to work with us on all of those sorts of things. There's noise issues, there's light issues.
Well, yeah,
there's all sorts of issues that are important to our region. And
one of the benefits of the land swap was that you could get some ordinances, right, for the noise that the PUD couldn't.
Yes, yeah. But the other thing that's sort of, I think, so, there's 2 sides to every coin, right? So we are developing a land swap with the PUD. So we actually have to acquire some property that's, if you and I were going to walk down, there's in the Horan area, right? But it's owned by private landowners, right? One of the private landowners is in right now for a 96 unit apartment complex. So you could have a 96 unit apartment complex in the Horan Natural Area. Or would you rather this project goes through and we find federal money to buy the land from the landowner so that there isn't this huge apartment complex, right?
I'm sure they would like neither.
I would like that as victory. Well, but again, when you do zoning, right? And it's in our whatever waterfront zone, and it's zoned for all of those things, and a private party purchase it, knowing what our underlying zoning is. They have a right to do that.
Sure.
So we are actually, when you start thinking about the alternatives, if the Horan Natural Area is big to you, right? And if we didn't do this, then you're going to end up with a bunch of apartments down there, right? And everything can stay the same, and you'll have another 100 people living in the Horan Natural Area. And I don't think any of us wants it, but that's the alternative if we don't do this. And so
why would it be zoned for that in the first place?
It's again, when you zone, how do you want to zone it? What should we zone it?
Well, if it's in the Horan Natural Area, why would it be able to be zoned for apartments?
Okay. So when you look at the flood plain when the river floods, right?
Yeah.
It's not all the way down in there.
Okay.
It's sort of right by where the PUD has their switching yard. It's right on the other side of that. Okay. So,
Yeah.
right there on Thurston?
Yeah.
Not Thurston, whatever the street is.
The Columbia.
Yeah. Well, as it turns, and
Yeah.
they've got all their little switching yards and all that. It's just right on the other side of that. So you would look at that and say it's sagebrush.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, yeah, it is sagebrush, and it's owned by a family. They've owned it for 100 years, 80 years. And how would you zone it?
I don't know.
You can't develop. That's not a zone. Okay. Residential mixed use. I mean, we got to pick a zoning. So it's zoned so they could build residential, right? And we need residential. So again, when you look at zoning and you say it's been zoned that way forever, and those guys have rights, right? They have rights to develop. So the fact that we're going to go in and purchase this land, leave it in open space forever, is a plus. But people don't ever think of that. They're like, well, the natural area, there's going to be some more noise or more light. Yeah, there is, and we're trying to mitigate that. But don't forget that we're also preventing a huge development from taking place in the spot where we don't probably want that to happen. And so there are lots of pluses that people don't always think about, because you don't always think about, well, what could happen if they didn't do this?
Mm-hmm.
And some of that stuff is stuff that you and I wouldn't be that happy with.
Yeah, there's always going to be parts of a project that people don't know about, right? And they're only going to see what's being reported on. And so, man, I don't want you to like spill the beans or anything like that, but I want people to see the importance and like get behind and say, like, trust the decisions that are being made in the way that they're being made, because you're making them for the betterment of the whole.
Yes. And listen, I'm not the only set of eyes, right? Or the next mayor will not be the only set of eyes who gets to say, how big's that wall going to be, or what's it going to look like, or how tall is this going to be, or there's going to be a whole bunch of eyes on that. A bunch of engineers, our engineers, your next mayor, your entire board of directors of Chelan County PUD, and others and their staff will all be looking at it to make sure that we're trying to do what's in the best interest of the region, to make sure the road has the least impact as possible, right?
Yeah.
But, I've heard people call, Confluence Highway, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's a parkway. So what's
the difference?
So 35-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Okay.
Not 65.
Okay.
I don't believe there's going to be any stoplights.
Okay.
There might be a couple little jetties to turn, but for the most part, once you're on the parkway, it's like one roundabout, and you're on your highway to Chelan, right? But you're not going 50, you're going 35. And there's sidewalks, and there's bike lanes, and it's a parkway, and it's designed to bypass a little area, which is exactly what it's doing. And so, I think there's misconceptions with, they're building a highway. Why is it only 2 lanes? They should build a 4-lane highway. We can't fit a 4-lane highway there. It's not a highway, it's a parkway. And so, again, we're just trying to add 2 more lanes to the north-south, right?
Okay.
So if I'm in Chelan and I'm coming and trying to get to Confluence Health for my appointment, I can do what you do now and go down North Wenatchee Avenue, or I can just take the parkway and I'll dump in around Denny's.
All right.
Right? Those are sort of pick and choose. You're leaving town, you want to go to Starbucks or get a hamburger, go down Wenatchee Avenue. You're just trying to get out to go to Leavenworth and take the parkway and do the loops and work your way up. So just trying to add another 2 lanes so that people have options getting in and out of our town.
Well, you said you're trying to do things to mitigate the noise. That's been another concern. But, if you're trying to do things to mitigate the noise, people get worried about the aesthetics of what it might look like. This is Wenatchee. They want to keep it that small town feel, not have the big barriers like Seattle and the highway there. So is it going to start looking like that as we get forward another decade?
No, it shouldn't. It's so you think about it. I don't know how many times I've been on that trail section now with every consultant you could possibly have, right? Sort of walking, sort of what we're thinking this is going to look like, whether it's PUD commissioners, and every time the train goes by, and we can't even talk, right? Right? We have to wait for the train to go by.
Yeah, that's a good point.
One time we were walking, and I'll get the term wrong because I don't know what a large amount of geese would be called. Is it a flock?
It's a gaggle.
A gaggle, perfect. So a gaggle of geese come by, and we can't talk either. right? Because the geese are making so much noise that
Uh-huh.
we just have to wait for the. So it's not like there isn't noise there already. Okay. Now, and a car makes a different sort of noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's a little bit more constant, right? So sort of a humming, but it's not like there isn't noise there already, right? So we want to do is we're not going to be able to mitigate. We'll help a little bit. The stuff we build will help with the train noise to some degree. We can't fix the gaggle of geese or the whatever you call them.
No,
Um,
it's not what I call them. It's just the
if
name.
that's what it is,
Yeah.
I trust you on that.
Okay.
And we'll do our best to mitigate the car noise, right? So
Yeah.
that's what, and again, our noise consultants, car noise doesn't go up and down. It sort of goes this way and it stays at the tire level, not at the hood. And so it's like, what do you need to block? And does it go up and drop? Or, I mean, what is it? So there's all these consultants that have chimed in on all of that sort of stuff. In my backpack, which I didn't bring with me, I actually have a noise meter thing with me now.
A DB.
Whatever it is. I hit the button, it tells me how
meter?
many. Yeah. Because the consultant was like, this is how many decibels it is, and it's really not that much. And so, but people don't always understand that whole concept. So again, we have with exhaustion done so much work on all of those sorts of things. So
do you ever just look around and you'd be like, how is this my life? I am standing on the side of a road with a DB meter.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Listen.
This has been a pretty cool run.
Mayors get to do lots of stuff, right? And if that's what it took for me to understand more about noise than what I knew before, then I'm willing to do that. And I think it's what you do. It's like, and other jobs as assigned, right? And you don't know what those are going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the part about this job is you just never know. You never know. I had a schedule for Monday. My Monday was not even close to what that schedule was, right? Because something came up and I got in the middle of something that took priority over the rest of the stuff. And that's just how Monday went. So it's just like, that's just understand that you don't have you may have a calendar and you may have certain things on there and you may get to them and you may not. It just sort of depends. And so, yeah, it's just, I think if you care, then you're willing to sort of walk around with a decibel meter and sort of understand what the noise levels are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let people know that you care because you've got one, right? And I'm like, yeah,
this is what I'm doing.
This is what we're doing. We're in a meeting now and we're talking, and this is going to be louder than the road noise by a couple of decibels.
Mm-hmm. So when you think back, 12 years before you were just starting or just getting into it, and you had your preconceived notions of what being a mayor was going to be like, and now you're kind of thinking about what not being a mayor is going to be like, what sticks out in your mind as the one thing that you're like, I did not think it was going to be like this?
I don't.
For the better, for the great.
Listen, there's things that I remember when I first became mayor. It's like I went up and there's this pile of papers to sign. And I'm signing cemetery certificates.
Mm.
Okay. So if you are buying something from the city, at the city of Wenatchee Cemetery, either a plot or a niche, you're having a contract with the city. So who signs contracts for the city? Me.
Mm.
So, right. So like day 3, I've got 20 cemetery certificates. I had no idea I'd be signing cemetery certificates. Didn't know that was part of the job. Right. It's just like
bizarre.
Okay,
yeah.
Got to do that. Okay.
Bizarre
so
little
just
tidbit.
check that on the list. And there's just a number of those things, and you start getting in a rhythm for sort of how all that works. And again, that's just one thing. And I think, city government so much is in silos, right? You have your police department over here, and they're doing this, and you got the chief that you talk to, and you got your finance department over here, and public works, but there's only one person who knows all of that stuff, who can put it in their mind and go, oh, we're going to do this, and this has an effect to the police, and this has an effect to public works, and I got to make a decision here, right? Or the finance. And I think you're the only person who really knows those things. Laura, who works for me, who's my executive services director, she's probably the other one that knows the most about what goes on, because I need somebody to talk to about, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And so she's the other person. Council members generally that's not their role. Their role is to oversee contracts, pass a budget. I need to report back to them on how we're doing. So they're sort of oversight. They're really not day to day. And I think until you sit in that role and you just, again, the number of things. I remember when I was running for mayor my second time, and the person I was running against, I think he had 3 or 4 decisions that I made that he didn't like. And I go, yeah, That's interesting because I've been mayor for 365 days in a year times four. How many days is that? 1,400 days. I'm probably making 6 decisions a day.
Uh-huh.
Right. Some of it about, oh, this is out. Oh, I better call this person first because it's Wenatchee and they'll find out before that person. And I need to make sure that person knows before that person knows. Right.
Yeah.
Or, oh, we're going to do that. Oh, I better call those 3 people that I know in my phone because they're, so it's like, and everything we make or every decision I make is always thought that way. Right. I may not get it right, but it isn't that I didn't think about it. I didn't just like, woo. I said, no, okay, we're going to do this. I got to call these 5 people. Or I got to do these 3 things before this becomes public, or I got to do. So I just think there's so many decisions that you make every single day. And then I walk into, new city hall. So we got, 85 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I open that front door, better be my best day, right? Because as soon as I walk in and I start throwing my keys or, look miserable, they can see that, right? So you got to walk in every day and today's a great day and thank you for your work and let me go to my office and see. I mean, you literally don't get to have an off day.
Yeah.
You just have to be on the entire time.
That's good advice. I think that's good advice for anybody in leadership.
Yeah.
But specifically, trying to pass on some good nuggets of wisdom for whoever's going to be sitting in that seat next. As of, right now we have either Mike or Brian, or maybe by the end of the day, we might have 10 more, who knows? Any other pieces of advice for the next mayor?
Be yourself. And I've said this, and you've probably heard me say this, Nikki, a couple of times. I became mayor and I learned about something, and I've known all of the last 4 or 5 mayors in our town. I've been around that long. And I look at something that Jim Lynch signed and I go, what was he thinking? Why would he have done that? Because today it doesn't look like this is the right thing to do, right? Or why did Dennis Johnson, and you know what? Someone's going to look at what I did and go, what was Kuntz thinking? Why did he? So you don't take it personal because I was just making the best decision I made with the information that I had at the time that I had it, right? And things change and not all of the decisions I made are going to be the right ones, right? You hope there's more right ones than wrong ones. But don't feel bad if someone's got a different idea or a different plan. And there are a couple of agreements that I signed that I knew when I signed them, and the council approved them. And I told them and there's a couple that have come back to haunt a little bit, but I don't take it personal, right?
Yeah.
You just do the best you can with the information you have,
and
be confident with it, and know it's not perfect, and you're not going to make everybody happy, right?
That's fantastic advice.
Just as simple as, we remodeled City Hall, right?
Yeah.
And, we had a budget for it. And the first time we went out for budget to get a contractor's bid back, it was way over what we had budgeted. So all right, let's stop for a minute. Let's look at what they said. And there were some things that were in the plan that we go, you know what, we don't need these fancy acoustical tiles. We could just do normal acoustical tiles. And we don't have to have all of the marble saved. What if they saved most of the marble? And so we were able to cut out, well over $1 million. We went to bid again, and the bids came in like $3 million less than the first time. And so we were like, we are on. But part of that was we had some council members that said, well, just get rid of the windows. No.
I know you're pretty proud that you came in at budget for that federal building.
But again, we've got 85 employees in there. Don't you want them to have like natural light and their skylights? I don't know if you've been in it, but it's super cool. And it's like, no, we got to do this. This is because and so you have to be bigger picture. You have to say, no, we're going to hold to this. Because as we sit here today, Nikki, and you look around our state and, you look at organizations, any kind of organization, it's like trying to hire engineers, right? So everybody's got money to build stuff and nobody has engineers. WashDOT out here is short, I think 7 or 8, right? All the big cities are short engineers. We've hired 4 engineers in the last 4 months. 2 seniors and 2 juniors. Why? Why are they coming to Wenatchee? Got a cool place to work, cool projects. And you and I think it's a cool place to live, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Why am I here?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if we didn't have windows, they wouldn't show up, right? So you got to stay, right? Our police department, right? We have budgeted 45. We have 44 officers, right? In the last 3 years, we've gotten 3 from Seattle. We just got 1 from Austin, Texas. Why are they coming here? Right? You try to make it a cool place for us to live, for them to work. They may like to enjoy hiking or skiing. I mean, other physical attributes, but also if it wasn't a great place to work, they wouldn't come here. So you you can't lose sight of that you're competing against other governments throughout the country, other organizations for your talent. And you want to make sure that you're a preferred place to go to work. And we've tried that really hard, especially over the last 6 or 7 years, to make sure that when we compete with people for employment, that we're winning way more than we're losing.
Yeah. I mean,
and that benefits the city. That benefits everybody that lives here if we're hiring great people.
Well, we're constantly, especially coming out of the pandemic, we're constantly trying to always improve and always trying to get better. And we're thinking about the future, and the Confluence Parkway project is part of that improvement. But as you are going to be moving on, what areas do you think are going to be, where do you think that we can improve as a community, as its relation to city government?
So here's, I'll put my 10 years from now, here's what's going to happen. So you have the four major governmental entities in our region. You have the cities of Wenatchee and East Wenatchee, and you have the two counties, Chelan County and Douglas County, right? The two biggest economic development in our history of our two counties are happening as we speak, one in unincorporated Douglas County and one in unincorporated Chelan County. That will completely change the structure, the tax structure of our entire region. And I believe you're only as strong as your weakest link in terms of, because we're all, whether it's Douglas County Sheriff's Office or sometimes it coming to things. I mean, we all got to be working at this thing together, because that river divides us, but it shouldn't. And so the city, since we annexed Old Station 8 or 9 years ago, has really, from a financial standpoint, been one of the leaders of those four, right? We've managed to get lots of grant dollars, great economic development, lots of large construction projects. You've seen a lot of apartments built, PUD building, just lots going on. Stimul's redone a bunch of stuff. So we've had enough money that when people come and say, hey, can you give us some money with this for this project or that project, or help the America PAC, we've been able to do that. And some of the other organizations have maybe not as much, right? That's all changing. So all of the money is now going to sit with those 6 elected officials, your 3 Chelan County commissioners and your 3 Douglas County commissioners. If you were to ask me, my biggest concern right now, it's for the city of East Wenatchee, because they do not have the ability to grow. They tried to do an annexation and it got rejected. And if you can't grow and take a little bit of extra money so that you can, in our instance, redo Lincoln Park, or put $1 million into Met Hal Park, or put $300,000 or $400,000 into Kenzie's Landing, or the trailhead at Appalachia, or any of those things, right? It's like, we're not just taking the money and just going to stick it in our savings account. We're going to put it back into the community so you can see things. And I want all of our organizations to be able to do that, right? And I think as those winners and losers change, if you were to ask me what keeps me up at night, it's the city of East Wenatchee not being able to do an annexation, not being able to get the revenue that they need to take care of their citizens. And that worries me. We're okay for a while, but we're also 6 or 7 years from not having any more development left, right? There's some stuff up in the foothills, the Triad development, the Philippine property. So there's another, 1,000 housing units or so, and then we're going to be done. I don't know where we go next, right? And that's going to be for another mayor to figure out. But understand that those Microsoft buildings, the 6-pack in Douglas County and the 6-pack in Malaga, are the largest things. And remember, they pay property tax to whom? The counties, sales tax to the counties, and the two cities will get thank you for coming, and maybe someone will buy a cup of coffee while they're in town, and we'll get 13 cents. But I'm just telling you, when you look at that, be happy for a region, but understand not all of that trickles into all of the governments equally.
So is there anything that the residents, citizens, community members of Wenatchee, Chelan County can do to help support that initiative?
Yeah, I think understanding that the city is inside the county and that we should be partnering more and more and more, not less and less and less. And when the counties get sort of regional dollars, which they get some pass-through dollars from the state, it's okay to spend some of that in the city as opposed to spending all of it in the unincorporated areas. Because if we create economic development in the city, then the county gets a piece of that too, because they get some of our sales tax and they get a big chunk of property tax, right? And so we should be able to do this together, not quite as much of well, we're just going to support the unincorporated areas because the city's got the city handled, and the city of Chelan's got Chelan handled, and we're just going to deal in the unincorporated areas. I think that's a little short-sighted.
Right. Yeah.
But that's been an opinion of mine forever, right? Because you got to remember, I'm the mayor of Wenatchee, right? And it's always Wenatchee first, always. And then it's the region second.
But you have been a great partner of East Wenatchee, and and a great support to them, and done a lot of collaborative efforts.
Yep. And Mayor Lacey and I got along great, and Mayor Crawford and I get along great. And she's a wonderful. We were together last night at an event for the Humane Society. And she's great. And I think she's running probably unopposed. I haven't gone to the Douglas County website.
Yeah, I believe she is.
Yeah. So, and she's great. But those are big challenges, right?
Huge.
The challenges that she has are big challenges. And she needs a community that understands those challenges and is willing to support them. When we annexed Old Station, I put together a whole committee of business owners. And I said, here's our budget. I don't care. It's all yours. Look at it. Here's what our growth rate is. At that point, it's 1%. And it's going to cost us 3 to 4% every year more to operate. So you tell me what we look like in 5 years. And they said, yeah, you're going to have to relieve 10 police officers. They just went through the whole gamut. And I said, and if you don't let us grow, right? And the natural growth was Old Station. And so they come and they said, you need to annex Old Station. So I went out to the business owners and said, your compadres in business said that you guys need to annex in. And they said, yeah, you're right. We need to annex in. And so huge for us, right? Huge for us in terms of revenue, huge for us in terms of being able to take that money and use it at Methill Park and road projects and Lincoln Park and all those things that we all think just magically happen, right? And they happen with tax dollars that we all pay into it. Right? And so I'm proud of the fact.
No, I think people realize they use tax dollars to make that happen. They are very aware of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Are you going to miss it? Are you going to miss it as you're in the light at the end of the tunnel?
I'm sure I'll miss it, but it'll be weird on Thursday night to be able to actually go home and do something with my wife. And I got some traveling I want to do. I got a grandbaby.
Hopefully you're going to take your wife with you.
Yes, I got a grandbaby in Nevada, so I need to spend more time with her. She's 2. So we've already planning some trips. So we've already got some things on the list. And the next year, so people say, oh, what are you going to do? So,
are you going back to work?
Well, I'm still doing tax returns, right?
Well, yeah.
Just did 800 tax returns last tax season. So next April 15th of 2024, I will have 4 months.
All right.
Of nothing. So
okay.
I'm just blocking it out. I'm telling my tax clients, don't call me. I'll be back after Labor Day.
You are going to be on a boat somewhere.
I've got a few little things I want to do. I want to take my daughter on a trip. She turned 30, so we're going to do a little daddy-daughter trip and don't know where. Chrissy and I will do some traveling. There's lots of fun stuff to go do, right? I still have never hiked Kolchak. Don't hold that against me. I just haven't done it, so I'm going to hike Kolchak. I got some things.
It's because you're standing on the side of roads with a decibel meter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe I'll take the decibel meter to Kolchak and see. Yeah, but I heard I can't even park near the parking lot because there's too many people. So I got to find it during the week to do it.
Yeah, see, so very telling.
Yeah, there's some things I might even just around here that I want to do. So.
Well, I wish the best for you.
Thank you.
And good luck in your next 7 months.
Thank you.
Thank you for being very generous with your time and energy today. We appreciate it as we move forward. This is an exciting time for the community, and I know for you as well. So
yeah,
thank
you. It's all
you.
great. You're welcome, Nikki. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you again soon.
All right, take care.
Thanks. All right, there you go. Lots of time here with Mayor Frank Kuntz of Wenatchee, and he's got up until the end of the year as the mayor of Wenatchee until he hands it over to somebody else. As of right now, I haven't refreshed my browser here in a while, but the last time I checked, it was Mike Poyer and Brian Campbell who have filed in the Chelan County Elections Office for mayor. So it might be just a 2-man race. We got no ladies running this year. Man, I just need to. I'm taking a couple of deep breaths after that one. That was a big one. Whoo-wee.